Yeah, we're live. Adjust you down just a little bit. Tonight, I'm at West Tech Performance. Obviously, we've got the, as you see from the thumbnail, I have the 3800 up on the dyno, and it's running. Yesterday, excuse me, I got so excited. Yesterday, I was trying to get the thing up and running. I was hoping to get it running yesterday, but it had no oil pressure. Whenever we put a new motor on the dyno, we always try to prime the oiling system just to make sure that we have, we have oil before we start it and run it. And especially if it's a wrecking yard motor and we of unknown origin. In fact, I can't even remember what kind of car it came out of. This thing's been here for a long time. This was one I got way back with help from you guys. You remember seeing me sitting in the back of my truck with my arm around it and stuff. It was the one that I was planning on doing all this testing with. And it took a long time to finally get the fuel injection working. Whoever gave us the information to let Ish get that going, thank you very much. And I can't remember his name. So somebody post that up there and let me know so I can thank him. But we did get, and the only way we got this one running is because I took the L32 heads off of the L32 that's broken and put them on this L67 because the L67 heads were also bad. We did a bunch of flow testing on them, and I even tried my hand at porting, which worked out pretty well. We got some pretty good gains. But the heads that are on there now are just bone stock L32 heads. They're the same heads that we ran, the stock heads that we ran on the L32 for all that testing. So if you guys haven't taken a look at those videos, make sure to check them out. There's a lot of good stuff, including running a compound turbo through the M90. But here's the cool thing, and tonight I'm going to take you guys in there, and right now I have the motor set up to run NA. So what I did was I took an older, since this is an L67 and it has the L67 intake manifold and the early blower on it. I had many other early blowers. Thank you, Brandon from LS4 King, for sending a couple out when I was doing the 4.8 stuff. We're putting a couple of those to good use, and one of them is on this motor now. So I basically took the rotor pack out and took the guts out, and then I just made a quickie plate to cover up the back of it or the front of it, depending on what how you have it oriented. We just basically got rid of the snout assembly and replaced it with a plate. And then all I had to do was unbolt the M90, which I've already run on this motor, and we've made runs at various timing levels on pump gas. We ran it on different timing levels on E85, and then now I'm running it on naturally aspirated. So I want to compare to see how the blower does at the stock boost level, which is making about between 8.2 and 8.5. Excuse me, at the top of the RPM range. But all of them, this is no exception. They all have a slight rising boost curve. So I think it's starting out at about, I don't know, 4.5 or 5 pounds, something like that at the load in point, which is we're at about 2,800 on the load in on the blower stuff. They have a nice flat torque curve, which is good. It's cool. You guys will get to see because I'll kind of compare it to the runs that I made on the L32 when we ran it in the same condition. Right now, the only thing this has on it that it didn't have is it didn't have long tube headers when we ran it at this low boost. I didn't put those on until we were making a little bit more power. But as we saw, the headers, especially at this power level, were not worth anything. I just happened to have them, and they were easier to put on than trying to find out where all the pieces were for the stock exhaust. So this has the long tube headers on it, but it has the early M90 on it. It has the early throttle body mass air combination. It has a 3.8 blower pulley stock camshaft, and I don't know if the L32 heads actually flow any better than the L67 heads, because the L67 heads that I tried had a 1.83 intake valve on them, and that's what the L32 heads are supposed to have. And the other ones, I'm told, have 1.8. That's not what was on this one, and maybe somebody had upgraded them one time at some time in their life, and I wish that they would have upgraded the valve job and the valves themselves, because they really needed it when you look at that poor the poor L67 heads. But so I'm going to make some runs tonight, and we're going to run it on naturally aspirated. So it'll be interesting to see, because we now know what it makes NA, and I ran it supercharged with the stock blower on it. The way that it comes from the factory, basically. We ran it with pump gas, and we run it on California's 91, which is not great, but it's it's okay. And I ran that at about 20 degrees at the top. When I'm running the pump gas stuff, we started out at 16, and then the middle part it's kind of 18, and then as we get higher in engine speed, we got all the way up to 20 on the 91, and then we ran a couple of more degrees when we ran the E85 because it responds to it, and it like timing everywhere with the E85. And right now, in fact, we still have E85 on it with the NA motor, but I haven't found big gains with the NA motor on E85. With very few exceptions, I haven't seen too much. We sometimes see a little bit of power down low, but not very much, especially with something that has this low of static compression. So we're going to make some runs tonight and see see how the NA stuff is doing. I might have to readjust the dyno a little bit, just to and not readjust it for the way that the power output numbers, just readjust it so that the servo is adjusted properly for the fairly low. The low torque output of this thing. I can't imagine. I mean, with the blower, obviously that helps quite a bit. But we'll see what we'll get a fair idea of what the blower's worth at the boost level that they're running it at, at that blower speed. So it'll be interesting. So if you guys want, we'll take a walk in and take a look at the setup I've got here. Hopefully the signal is in there. So take a walk in the dyno. So here's our motor. And again, an L67 with L32 heads, but basically otherwise it's all stock. The one thing that I did find out after 6 or 7 trips to Napa is that the front dress is different on this L67 than it is on, like when I went in to order it, I thought, okay, if I thought it was a Pontiac Grand Prix GTP, like a 98 or 99 or something. I think that this one's actually later, and I'm not sure that this came from a Grand Prix anyway. This uses a different belt. It uses not only a different serpentine belt, it used a longer blower belt too. So I had to, and I think it's because of, I think that this is different. This assembly is different than the L32 that I ran. So you just have to take some time and figure out the belt and buy and return and buy and return and buy and return a whole bunch of different belts. Here is the plate that I made. You can see that's for the back of the blower. I guess I probably should tighten this bolt. Oh. Wow, some of these feel like they might be finger sided. That's where we're getting all the power from. I'll try to tighten those up. And you can see over here, where's the blower at? Oh, okay, it's over here. So this is the M90 that I was running on it. All we did was get rid of basically this part of it and close it with a plate. Same throttle body / mass air meter, because those are combined in one unit. This one has you can see, has the standard 3.8-inch blower pulley. Eventually, we'll get some cool stuff like this. The one problem I'm having is I want to do a back-to-back test comparing the Gen 5 blower to the early blower, and obviously the throttle body will go on there as well because they're max set. The problem I have is I only have, I've got 2 L32 blowers. I've got that one that has the hub on it with the 3-inch pulley, and I've got this one out here that also has a hub on it. Big red down here also has a hub and aftermarket pulleys. The problem is I don't have I don't have 2 things that I would need to make this work. I don't have an aftermarket 3.8-inch pulley to run on either one of those hubs. One of them is a ZZP, and I don't know what this one is. Somebody loaned me this blower. I don't know what that one is, but I don't have that. And I also don't have, now I don't have an L32 snout that I can use and just do a snout swap and with a stock pulley on it. And when I was over at the wrecking yard looking at the NA stuff, that's one of the other things that I was looking for. I was looking for one of those blowers so I could take the whole blower. That would be easy. Then I wouldn't have to do a snout swap. But if I just found one that I could pull the snout off, I was going to try to do that as well. But unfortunately, I didn't find one. And so now the only thing I have to put on there is I can put that blower on there, the big red over there. But the problem is the biggest pulley that I can put on big red over there, I think is a 3.4, because I think that came with a 3.4 and a 3.2. And so obviously, you know, more boost is obviously going to make more power. And then the other thing I want to do to the L32 blower, the Gen 5 blower that has the 3-inch pulley on it, is I want to cut the flange off the back of it and make it into something good. Here, I'm going to cover up for a second, and it didn't do it. Come on, work with me. It's not happy. Jake, yeah, I saw the dimpled ports. That was interesting. I'm not interested in doing dimpled ports on an iron head. There we go. That's better. So that's what I got going on tonight. I'm going to do more testing NA, and then I want to put the other blower on and see if I have after my 7 or 8 trips to Napa, see if I have the right belt to put the smaller pulley on, because unfortunately I don't have a direct swap to put the and I don't have something to run that. I don't have a snout with a hub on it to run that blower with a smaller pulley either. So maybe more testing is necessary. But you know, all of that's good stuff. It will be interesting to see. And then if this is a good running motor, which we'll probably find out when we run it NA, if it's a, you know, good candidate, maybe then we can run turbos on it. I do want to try the ported heads. We're obviously going to put the cam in it. I only have one cam right now. I have that same comp cam that we ran on the L32. I'll put that in. I want to put a bigger cam in, and I want to try a set of, like, you know, garden variety stage 1, stage 2 kind of cylinder heads before we go to the double wazoo stuff with a big cam. And you know, basically we would kind of at that point be prepping it for the big bang stuff. The other thing I'm going to do is after we put the cam in and then we run the blower with a 3-inch pulley on it, or maybe even the 3.2, I want to introduce and do a test on water methanol. We don't have an intercooler for it, so we want to run some water meth injection and see. You know, that will kind of be cool. Guys want to know how much it drops the charge temperature. And I'm kind of curious myself. I'd like to see what happens when we do that, because we know that the charge temperatures can get up over 200 degrees without any problem. I like the fact that when we ran the blower with the camshaft on the L32, that the camshaft brought boost down quite a bit, which was definitely beneficial. So what do you guys think? Should we make some runs on the NA motor? How much are M90s? I don't know what the wrecking yard sell just a blower for. They got to be cheap, because we can get a whole motor for, you know, $300 or something. Press the 3/8 pulley off of the Gen 3. Usually when we try to press the stock ones off, they end up getting damaged. A dude on Reddit rocking an M90 through the hood of a Honda Pilot. Nice. Well, Rich, getting another Gen 5, but getting it tonight is not going to happen. And getting it even tomorrow might not happen. I might be able to get one from the wrecking yard. They're you know, they get stuff like that in all the time. Double wazoo, yeah. And there are other levels of wazoo up above that, right? Yeah, we have, Alex, we are going to run, I have the boost juice and we have windshield washer fluid, so we're going to try both of them. So you drop from 225 to 165, so a 60-degree drop. That's good. That's not like intercooler numbers, but it's obviously better than 225. $40 for the blower. See, that's it. That's good. That's a good boost cost there. How much boost will this handle? I don't know. Guys have run the stock bottom ends at some, at least they're saying they've run, you know, some pretty high power numbers. We won't go all the way, and I won't try to do that with an M90 because that's just silly. They're not going to make a ton of power. I know everyone's telling me that they make 500 at the tire with them. I haven't seen that, but even if we wanted to, that still with a turbo you can go to 800 or 900 or 1,000 or whatever blower or whatever turbo you put on there. I think if I really wanted to make power with a blower, I would put a different blower on there, one that I could put an intercooler on. AJ, you can't remember what your questions are? Just send me an email, man. You can ask me whatever you need. Got my big boy rims Tuesday. Nice. Rich, you're only 10 minutes away. Oh, there's no pulley on it. That doesn't really help us very much. Stock bottom end holding 32 pounds. Nice. Precision 6870. That's got to make a lot of power. That's going to be more than 3 times the NA power if everything's right. Springer, normally on a motor like that, if you have 12-to-1, I think I would put a solid roller on it, especially if you're not going to be driving it around a whole bunch. Uh, 34 degrees on a 347 or a 351 is right in the ballpark for a typical kind of inline valve head. Bobby, I have a Pontiac 400 coming up. Made 681 wheel horsepower on 24 pounds. And you've run it to 32 pounds? 8 more pounds. Could make a lot. Yeah, this motor in a Fiero has got to be it's got to be super fun. I always wanted them to put the HO version of the old Quad 4 in it, but this motor with a blower on it would be a hoot. Yeah, that sounds pretty impressive. $681 wheel horsepower. That's pretty serious at 24 pounds. Let's get with the program. Alex, I'm looking to buy a ZZP equalizer downpipe. 2.5 inch. So would that become a restriction? We always ran 3-inch downpipes on all of our stuff. Can you do a big bang on an SRT4? I don't see very many of those in the junkyard. Have you seen the Ecotech L33? I've seen pictures of it. I've never seen one in person. Looks like I need a beer. No beer for me, but other drinks are better. Vacuum pumps usually work, but vacuum pumps, we've tested them a lot here at Westech, and Steve has done a bunch, and they usually team them with the right kind of ring pack, and then that's when it tends to make a big difference. Or on setups like big blocks that have lots of windage and stuff. Juan, I don't have a Truck Norris cam right now, but I do want to run one. I need to figure out a motor to run it on. Mad Dog 2020. Nope, not since I was going to say high school days, but when I was legally able to drink, obviously. What does the equalizer downpipe do? Is it just a 2.5 inch, or is there something trick about it acoustically? I didn't have a 91 MR2. I had an 85. I think it was an 85 or 86. I think it's an 86. I haven't run any, Mike, I haven't run any of the intake coolers, but they've tested that a lot here. Engine Masters did a whole bunch of stuff on testing, icing the intake and all that stuff. And the and cooling the fuel, it made a big difference. Are you going to attempt to port the blower? I might. The Gen 5 that I have the 3-inch pulley on, we're gonna port that because we're gonna cut the back of it off and open up the inlet dramatically. The discharge side, I might try to do some stuff with. So the PT Cruiser 2.4 is the same. I thought that the SRT4 was rated at a higher power level than the PT Cruiser stuff. Jeff Smith wants me to, do you want me to run a Thunderbird? I was always jealous of the guy, of Dennis Hilliard from Central Coast Mustang, because when I go out to the Silver State, I would run my Mustang, and he brought out a T-Bird one year, and it's a lot more aerodynamic. Oh, it runs each bank to a Y. So like it's like the headers that I have on this thing then. Makes the primary tubes off the manifolds equal length. I've done lots of testing on equal length shorties on a lot of other applications, not specifically on this V6, but equal length shorties don't, or they didn't do anything on the ones I tested it on. Bigwig, the in-car performance is going to be exactly as you saw on the dyno. Yeah, I loved it. I love the 86 MR2 that I had. It was probably the first like oversteer car that I had. You know, you could lift throttle induce oversteer, which was kind of fun. The car handled really good. It was nimble. It just needed a lot more power. I don't think the M90 would be a good choice for a 1UZ. That's already a pretty powerful motor. You need something a little bigger. Evan, we are going to run a big throttle body. The Gen 5 throttle body is a little bigger than the L67 version. And then when I do the one that has the 3-inch pulley on it, we're going to put a 3.5-inch tube on it. I'm going to weld the 3.5-inch tube to the opening. We're going to port match that. And then I'm actually going to go up from that. I can go up to 102 millimeter LS throttle body on it. Yeah, you should, Connor, you should be able to find those blowers. They're for sale a lot because we see a lot of them taken off of the motors when we go over to the wrecking yard. A lot of the blowers are missing, you know, because you want to take all the blowers and turbos and all the good stuff off. Have you ever tested X pipe or H pipes versus separate exhaust on the dyno? The Engine Masters guys did that extensively. I haven't done it, but they did X pipes, and I think that they even did a Y pipe into a bigger exhaust, if I remember right. So that that might be coming up. That episode might be coming up, so you get to, if you have Motor Trend on demand or whatever you need to watch that, that stuff will be coming up. Yeah, Dean, it's a mid-engine car, so, and they say mid-engine, but it's transitioning toward rear engine, not quite like a Porsche is. I mean, the motor's not overhanging the center line of the tires, but still, it wants to. If the engine's in the back, if you have a lot of weight in the back, it will want to come around. Oh, Jeff, you were just listing bad drinks. I like how if you read the literature for Porsche every year, they said the same thing. Oh, this year in this new 911, we have cured the oversteer. Well, the understeer, the throttle on understeer, but the lift throttle oversteer that's inherent in having the rear engine of the Porsche. They even put weight in the bumper, in the front bumper of the Porsches, to try to get it to not react so violently, especially early on in the early turbo stuff. They call it snap throttle. So it was and every year they said the same thing. Oh, we have eliminated oversteer from this thing. That's really hard to do. I don't think I've ever tried Thunderbird. Never tried T-Bird. You have a North Star throttle body and adapter for the Gen 5. I'm just going to put, I already have a plate. I mean, I appreciate the loan, but we just have a plate that we made, so I can put whatever throttle body on it I want, as long as it's the right size. I can drill a couple holes and whip that up. That's pretty easy. Like I said, I just want to cut the end of it off so I can get rid of it and on it. And then with a silicone coupler, I can go up to a 4-inch or stay at 3.5 and put a 90 millimeter throttle body on it. You know, we can put lots of good stuff on there. What about the L67 is my interest in them? I used to own a company called Ram Air Technology, and we worked on these and sold stuff for these all the time for a few years. And so I'm familiar with them, and any motor that is a factory boosted motor is a good candidate for doing big bang stuff on, because they usually overbuild them. Is the CT26 the Rotrex blower? Yeah, Jeff, we were back in the day, we were Boone's Farm, Country Quencher, and Tickle Pink. If I remember right, it's been a long time. Gallo out of the jug, though, that was something. John's here. NG, thank you very much. But it gets busy. It gets too busy with too many people. And besides, what I do is what Engine Masters TV, what I've been doing for a long time, is what they started doing on Engine Masters TV. And I actually want to do something different. I mean, it's those guys are great. They're fantastic to work with. Especially I get to see Brule all the time. But it's cool to see Dulcich and Freiberger, because they do a lot of things that I don't do. I mean, they do a lot, like Dulcich does a lot of cool stuff over at his place, and that's just awesome. But I'd like to do a different kind of show. Yeah, they did a good job carrying the oversteer on the 928. I'm a big fan of that one, especially the later ones, like the 928S and the GT and those versions were actually pretty cool. The NSX, I had one of those. Those are very awesome. Ooh, Super Hikes. Until you got tickled pink. That's it. What is an LZ1 supercharger? ZZ Racing, you'll get to look at the timing. In fact, we should go do that. We should go, I'll go thing started up and we'll get to run it. But in this case, I ran different timing levels. Like at the horsepower peak, the timing level is more. At the torque peak, it's less. And then down low, it might even be less. So for instance, I ran, I started out at 16 degrees and then 18 and then 20 at the top, which is what I run on pump gas. So I'm going to get this thing started. Let's get it started in here. So there you go. I'm going to turn the water on and stuff, and we'll get this thing warmed up. Turn the meter on. Turn the BZ meter on. Okay, are we ready? So for the people that are interested in the timing curves and the tuning part of this, you guys can come take a look here. I'll show you. So this is the timing table. Everything on the timing table is not done. Only the area that I'm using. So I don't know if you can see that very well. I'm going to just bring the camera over here. That would be easier. So the area that I'm interested in is, we're starting at about 3,000. So this is the middle part here. So we have, right now, we've got E85 in it, and then we've turned the timing up. But it starts in at 18, then goes to 20, and then goes to 22. Because basically it has a little bit of a rising curve, but not much. Most of that is all the same. Now, there we go. Right now, the curve is very, very simple. Normally, what we would do is as we go up and boost, the timing would go down. But I haven't said all that. I haven't interpolated anything. I'm only, like I said, I'm only interested right now. We're going to run NA. So right here at 98 kPa, we're running about 27 degrees. On the load in, it's 24. And that's all I care about. I don't care about what this is all, like everything here is 32. But that's just rolling stuff. And I'm never out here. I'm never doing anything out here. It's only like right here, and it goes up and then goes straight across. So for what I'm doing, I'm only looking at the RPM range that we're running on the dyno. I don't care about the rest of it. I could go ahead and do all that if I just wanted to make it look pretty, but that's not why I'm here. Okay, turn the fuel pump on. Make sure our fans are on. So you guys would probably want to see over here, I think. This will be better. How's that? All good? Okay. Good check. Oil pressure's good. Fan's on. Water's on. Okay, let's see what happens. So this is our NA L67 with the ported blower intake manifold. Oh, you hit VTEC there, huh? I'll have to check and see what the servo number is. Looks like I might need to adjust the dyno a little bit. So the NA motor's doing pretty good. Look at, we had a little bit of a lean spike there in the middle. I have to go into a different map to adjust that. Get a little fat out the top too. Roll it over here. But 240 foot-pounds, that's all. That's just the load-in spike. But the thing made 211 horsepower NA. That's actually pretty impressive. So this is what the first video will be about. But since you guys are here, you get a sneak preview here. So that's what the blower's worth right there. Made 295 and 303 foot-pounds. That's on E85. That's with 22 degrees of timing. Right now we have 27 or 8 degrees of timing on the NA motor. I actually kind of want to try to add a little bit of timing, so maybe we should do that. So we're going to add a little timing, I think at the top. Okay, we're going to try it again. First, I want to see what the dyno is doing here. 19, we're okay. This is when you know you got a stock one. It's over 20 inches of idle vacuum. All right. Yeah, a little bit. That might be temperature though. So not very much. It wasn't very responsive to timing. So that 28 degrees that we were at NA seems to be a pretty good number. So the blower's definitely worth some power. So we're up near 300, 295. And that's with the stock blower. I can't wait to see how this thing responds when we put the cam in it and start putting some boost to it. Nice smooth curve. Take a look at our boost curve here. That's oil pressure. Your boost curve looks like that. That's not a good deal. Why am I not picking the right thing here? There you go. There we go. And that's what I've seen. I mean, this thing is really repeatable. See, that's, you know, that's a couple of runs. There's really no difference there. £8.5 pounds out at 6,000, but it starts out at 4 pounds. I wonder how many comments I'm going to get about the bypass valve. Oh, your bypass valve's open. No, no, it's not. But that's actually good power. It's actually more than I thought. And it leads me to believe that our, it kind of makes me think that our L32 was not a happy customer, because we're making more power with this L67 than we made with the L32. And they're in the same heads, which I don't think that's what the deal is. I'll be curious to see how much the other blower is worth, because the other blower's got to be worth some power, right? Let me shut this stuff off. And he's back. I do all my own stunts. Okay, let's see, what are you guys doing here? Under an inch of vacuum. Where are we reading vacuum at? We're not. We're reading boost. Yeah, the blower housing's not, I didn't port it or anything. All I did was just take the, I think we walked in there and showed you, right? You guys should have, Rando, you guys should have already seen that, right? It's just we just pulled the guts out of it. We just pulled the rotor pack out of it. You didn't see a positive boost number? The boost was 8.5 pounds. See, all the lives are together, right? Yeah, no, I know, that was NA. That's a good point. So the person that was telling me that he saw vacuum is probably accurate, right? Here, I'm lost. What was that laptop? What was programming the engine controller? Yeah, it's a Holley HP and that's the laptop's hooked up to it. Yeah, Randall, you didn't see a positive boost because there isn't any. Putting a 671 on it? Yeah, not a 671. 2.8 liter Kenny Bell maybe would be good. Emma Cruz, a 6.2 liter is a really good motor. Any difference with the phenolic spacer? Not on this dyno, you won't see any. You might see that more in the car where there's going to be more heat. Yeah, I'm impressed that it made this much power in stock trim, especially with that manifold. I mean, it's not that manifold by no means is ideal, especially the way I have it set. Oh, we forgot to do something. We have to do this. We have to check and see if the bypass valve is opening. If it's not, and we have to check that. We're definitely gonna have to find out if that's happening. The bypass valve has got to open. It opens at wide open throttle, right? It opens at zero vacuum. Okay, somebody let me know. That's such a terrible deal. It's got to be opening. This motor has all the accessories on it. It has the AC, has power steering, has the alternator, has the water pump. It's driving all that stuff. A 3.6 liter Kenny Bell is probably good for 1,500 horsepower. I don't think a 3 liter is. I don't have anything to bolt on the 112. It would take some sort of adapter. Rear wheel horsepower versus dyno horsepower. How much loss? It depends a lot on what dynos you're comparing. Different chassis dynos will give you different numbers. Rich, I ran one of those already. We had the turbo blowing through the blower. When we take an LS and run it on the engine dyno and run it on the chassis dyno, it's again, that's depending a lot on the drivetrain. 100 horsepower is probably a pretty good estimate, maybe. This motor doesn't have ported heads on it. It just has stock heads on it. Oh, you have a TVS 2300 and 70 millimeter? Yeah, that's a whole different ballgame, right? You're not going to, Beard, you're going to burst the aluminum intake manifold. The only thing you have to worry about, and something that I found out when I did my first manifold way back in the 5-liter Ford days, is that if there's a lot of unsupported surface area, if it does have an arc to it or some sort of groove or something in it, mine would breathe and it ended up cracking the welds. Because I just made a simple square. I had 2 plenums and then an intercooler sandwiched between them, and then all of that bolted onto the lower 5-liter deal way back in the day. But it ended up cracking the weld. We fixed it, but Dyno world records. Yeah, I always, that's so funny that people, I get comments like that all the time. People will send me, oh yeah, this is the world's fastest, whatever the next bunch of statements are. NA, Grand Am, automatic, green, you know, whatever their thing is. I'm like, you don't know what a world record is. Kohler plugs are a myth. Admiral's here. The bypass valve is, oh, you're right, Mike. The bypass valve is going to close at wide open throttle, right? It closes at 0 vacuum. Because its default is closed. So what I'm going to do tonight after I get off here is I want to open it because I want to see if we have more. I'll just wire it open. I want to see if we have more flow going into the manifold. Admiral, I don't know Andrew Lavender, and I don't know what issues he has. I'm not familiar with it. These are stock. These are bone stock heads that are on this motor right now. Nothing. It's just a stock L67. The only thing it does, it has L32 heads on it, but I don't think that that's any different. Oh, okay, so it's a turbo off of the Supra. It has the ability to open under boost because it's got a solenoid. It's got a solenoid that they can send pressure to. I have to look at it and see how it's routed. I've never even looked at that. Put a boosted spark on it. It does need that, right? Speaking of spark, I need to check and see what the plug gap is. I don't even remember what it is. They were just used plugs. In fact, they were used plugs, and Brule was about to throw them away. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, there's only 7 of them. I said, but I have a 6-cylinder. Just throw one of them away. Those are perfectly good plugs for this motor. It's all that it deserves. Chris, why are you thinking that a plastic one would gain anything? Are you so worried about heat soak? Cow magnets? Is there any truth to over and under driving pulleys for more power? Yes, underdrive pulleys change the speed of the accessories and reduce parasitic loss, and underdrive pulleys definitely. Thanks, Beard. I don't think the CT26 is going to support that V8. That's exactly right, Maury. The air does not absorb the heat because there's also a boundary layer, and it doesn't get past the boundary layer, even if it could, even if it had time. I had my battery go dead in my truck. Lucky for me, it happened in the parking lot of Napa. So I went in and bought another battery. And because I didn't have any tools in the truck, I was just going down to get a belt, and I had no tools. So I also bought jumper cables, and then I jumped myself and got back to the shop and was able to change the battery. I didn't do any more head porting. Yeah, I remember having underdrive pulleys on my Mustang. If you put, and everyone got like, oh, I want 5% or 10%, 15, 20%. They just got ridiculous. And because that's what would happen is that you wouldn't be charging the alternator, at least not at idle and cruise. Got to get the R's up. Try using a shop vac. Well, if you underdrive the crank pulley, then you underdrive all of the other accessories. And so that would make the biggest difference. Some guys had them, we had individual ones, like we had an alternator one and a water pump one. And I think they even had power steering ones, though not very many people changed that because it was such a pain in the ass. The other ones were easy. Kevin, like, comment, and subscribe. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. You've got ringing the bell, man. Come on. Thank you very much. 2 minutes left. I got to get back to work. I got a lot of dyno testing to do. I got more blowers and stuff. Yeah, Fox stuff. You had some sort of cold air. You had underdrive pulleys, you had shorty headers, throttle body. 65mm throttle body. On the water to air intercooler, is it really water on the wet side? You run water through just like you do through a radiator. Now imagine that all the air going through your radiator is the hot air from the turbo or the supercharger. That's what happens. The water is colder than the air is, and so it takes heat out of that air. And then when you heat up your intercooler, you have a secondary heat exchanger, usually to cool that off. Randall, thank you very much. Yeah, Mackenzie, the 3.6 Kenny Bell, I think Mahovitz is on 1500. Mr. King, you'd rather port a set of cast heads than an M90? I think M90, I'd done M90 porting way back in the day when I was at Rammer Technology, but it didn't seem like it was that hard. That would be cool to have a clutch on the blower so you could disengage it. Randall, if you pay for it, it's got to be good. Is that what the rule is? I think you're supposed to get what you pay for. I don't know, coming from me. So Admiral, you want to put 2 of these together and have a V12, Mad Max style? I know. After watching Mad Max, I mean, everybody wanted a declutchable blower. Chris, thank you very much. You guys got to throw questions when if you're just throwing money at me, I'm going to get spoiled. You got to have questions and stuff too. Mackenzie, Whipple has a twin screw blower that you can run fuel through. Because I thought that they had a replacement Whipple for a 6 or an 871. Cameron, it can be engine coolant too. But not normally. It doesn't. Normally that system is not shared with the engine though. Usually it's a separate system. $89 miles an hour. It's pretty slow. Charles, I didn't give up on the 4200. I didn't give up on any of my motors. I never do. Which car did you want to borrow? I only have the truck. Otherwise, you're going to be pushing something. What kind of volume can you get by porting a 19E? You're not changing the displacement if you do that. Ported and polished. Yeah, Admiral, anything you do to lower the temperature can help. That's why this thing's running like ice cold. It's probably 120 or 130 degrees. Revolution, the angle of the V in the V6 is kind of irrelevant. What you would be testing there, doing a 60 degree versus a 90 degree, is you'd just be testing that 60 degree versus that 90 degree, and whatever those do, whatever kind of heads they were designed with or camshaft or that kind of thing, that's what you'd be testing. Wouldn't be what the V does. Yeah, Toyota also had a clutch on theirs. Oh, you want to borrow Lisa's car? Lisa doesn't even let me borrow Lisa's car. I'll be back for LS cam advice. I have a cam sitting right over here. It's perfect for you. You don't even have to tell me what it is. It's perfect. We're in the orange area. West Tech is in Miraloma, so it's out by Ontario. What's the next world record going to be? I have something in mind. Well, with the turbo, Chris, that's a good question. And I've got to get going though. But the turbo sprint, what was happening when the car got stolen is Tom, the guy who used to work here at West Tech, really good fabricator. He built all the Bonneville cars that we did, and he did all the cages and all the fabrication stuff with it because he does awesome stuff. But he was putting a cage in the sprint because I had already set a bunch of records at the Maxton Mile and the Standing Mile. And the records that we had gone in the Standing Mile were more than what was done out of the record out at Bonneville. So I needed to put a cage in it because we were going to go out to Bonneville and set some records in the sprint. Because we'd only run I was still running the stock turbo. We were still running the vane meter, all that stuff. And so I had done a compound turbo deal stuff on it, and we had made more power. So we knew that there was a lot more power to be had. And that thing was all stock. I mean, it had the head was stock, the cam was stock, all the things were stock. All I did was put a good air-to-water intercooler on it and a good exhaust and a few other tricks, and it worked out really good. And then we were going to go out and put some heat into that Bonneville record, and then it got stolen. Have you seen the Aussie L32 intake? I've seen pictures of it. Do you know famous Amos engines? No, I don't. Jeff, 2650, definitely. Yes, Lisa's very smart. She's still under my spell, though. If you can't figure out Holley EFI at least well enough to idle it to a dyno shop, you don't have business being under the hood. Wow. Yeah, Randall, that's why I like Bonneville. It's a whole different thing. And I really like the Silver State, which we got to run, I don't know, 12 or 13 times. That was cool because that's like Bonneville, except it's for 45 minutes, which is really a test to your nerve and to the stuff that's going on in the car and cooling and all that stuff. But Bonneville's cool because I like the aero stuff. I like calculating the necessary speed and the gearing and doing all that stuff. It's pretty fun, and it's amazing if you get the car, you know, fairly aerodynamic, which we did with the Civic, because we, Tom and Bernie and the guys did a really cool belly pan and air dam and a rear pan. So, you know, we did a lot of work to it, and it was amazing how little power it's needed to go as fast as we had to go. Because I like doing that. I don't like, lots of guys show up with, you know, they want to run 1,000,000 horsepower, and I'm like, nope, I want to run 413 because I think that's what's going to take to do what we have to do. Because if I run 414, it might break, but 413, it's going to be fine. And then we only run what's necessary. 808, we already done compound boost on this, not on the L32, but not on the L67. We're probably just going to run the turbo on it. I did a Silver State car for a shop owner out of Phoenix, 3000 GT. Those were cool. I got to race one of those many times when we were at the Silver State, because I think it's the time that they called the race off, and we all had to drive back in an orderly fashion. We did not do that. And I think it was Hennessy. I don't know if it was John driving, but he was definitely there. It was one of his cars. And so we would stage up every chance we got. I was in the thing and had a Vortec on it. And so it was a fairly good race. Mine was a little faster in 4th gear, but then when I would get into 5th gear and the RPM would come down, I didn't have enough boost in the Vortec until we got to the top. And so the twin turbo would pull a little bit on me, and then we'd start going again. And then we'd have to shut off because they did want us going, you know, 180 miles an hour or whatever behind the CHP car. Would you ever go 200 in the Civic? Yeah, I would go 200 in the Civic tomorrow. And I might be doing that, but with a different motor combination. Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies, is the World's Fastest Indian. There's lots of crazy stuff out of Bonneville. It's like that. It's very, very cool. 200 in a Civic is actually not scary at all. 200 in a Camaro would be scary, because the back end wants to pass the front end. In a Civic, it just goes straight until you break a half shaft. The Hondas are a pain to work on. Not the B series, isn't. Oh, Dick, yeah. So if it's Dick Landy stuff, was he running Hemis in it and stuff? Yeah, Casey, that's where the Silver State is. It runs from Lund to Hiko. We were going to go more than 226 if the half shaft didn't break. It was on pace to go way into the 230s, because that was only at the 4th mile. And if you look at the acceleration rate, it was still pulling. It was getting up into the happy zone of the motor. Nice. Yeah, muscle cars are not not ideal. Jeff Smith found that out when he tried to take his he took his Chevelle. He didn't try. He did. He took his Chevelle 66 or 67. Hopefully he'll watch this and let me know. Out at the Silver State, and it had a good Lingenfelter motor, and so it went fast, but it it wanted to lift a little bit. Oh, the 3000 GT. Yeah, definitely. We used to say that you could drop a quarter in it and it would never hit the ground. That was definitely packed full of stuff. Oh, cool, Randall. How big were the turbos in it? I've done a couple of things with the Dodge Stealth and the 3000 GT, but it was all chassis dyno stuff. And we did what everybody else did. You turn the boost up and put turbo upgrades on them, then put intercooler upgrades on them, put injectors on them. I don't think we ever ran, back then, we didn't run the E85 on any of them that I can remember. Did you ever meet the guy running the IMCA car? There were guys running Cup cars, but I don't think I think the IMCA car came after me. There was a guy out there that had an American Indy car out there, and we thought, oh, that's like super cool. We're like, this is really, really nice. Now, how high can you raise it up so that you're not going to bottom out on this road? He said, no, that's maximum ride height right there. We're like, yeah, you're not going to make it 20 feet. And he didn't. Yeah, a 69 Camaro gets. I've had a 69 Camaro at 120, and my first car was a 70 split bumper car, and I've had that at 120, and that's a lot. It felt like 220. Front wheel drive on the Salt works really good because it's a very loose surface. People don't have problems usually making power. What they have trouble is putting the power down to the ground. That's what the Streamliner guys are going through. They need ideal salt and ideal traction, and they're running traction control stuff. But you still have a percentage of, in a lot of cars, the Civic really didn't have very much. You have a percentage of slippage, so the tire is spinning even at speed. So and then if the back end gets loose and it overspins, like they try to get into the throttle too much and too early, it wants to loop around on you. So in a Civic, it just like, I just had a stock open diff in it, and it just went like nice and straight and happy. I always wanted to do a front wheel drive belly tanker. I thought would be cool. Yeah, the Tempos would shut the wing windows. I remember going a $120 or a $130 in a it was a 500-inch Cadillac. I can't remember what year. I can't remember what year it was. It was an early one, and it was a boat, and we had, I don't know, 6 or 8 people in it. Just boating down the road. Yeah, and actually the open diff is better on the Salt. If you have guys have tried limited slips and lockers and stuff in the Hondas, and it tends to want to veer around, and this one. Yeah, the Williams ran a Formula One car there. If you look way back, Shelby ran the Daytona. The Cobra Daytona at Bonneville and set a lot of FIA records back in the day. A belly tanker is basically the gas tank from a P51 Mustang with wheels and tires and a place to sit in it. It's polished. It's like all kinds of awesome. You know, it's a good car to go up to speed in is a Corvette. any any C4 and above Corvette. They're nice and stable. Yeah, 2.5 will fit nice in there, right? Okay, guys, I got to get back to work. I got to go see if I can figure out if I can make that bypass valve. See, I want to listen and see if it makes the quadrijet sound. Thank you guys all for showing up out as you always do with the channel. It's very helpful because I had to buy like, I don't know, $9,000 worth of different belts today. Some of them I get to take back because we're not going to use all of them. But I've been back and forth a bunch of times, and I finally got the right ones on there. And then I went back, and they're like, "We thought you already got the right one." I'm like, "Yeah, but now we're going to change the pulley, so now I got to get to go through this thing all over again." So thank you guys all for helping out, and I will see you all tomorrow. You'll get to see the whole video up. Hopefully, I can do that tonight on the test on the NA and the supercharged stuff and the timing and E85 and all that stuff. So good stuff. Thank you guys. I will see you tomorrow.